This video is sponsored by Vanguard. Check out vanguardworld.com for tripods, camera bags and cases to suit all budgets. Hi everyone, this is Dave from Geekanoids and this is my full review of the Fujifilm X100S. Now, if you didn't see my unboxing and first look, or indeed the HD video sample, please do check the links underneath this video where you will find links to those particular videos. Well worth checking out because I run through all of the features on the X100S. Now, in this review, I'm going to cover off both the good points and the bad points. And let's start off and get the bad points out of the way. And there are really only a couple of bad points. Now, the first bad point is with regards to the hybrid viewfinder. Now, this actually is a very, very good viewfinder indeed. If I just get it to switch to the hybrid viewfinder and pull this up close to my camera lens, you'll see in there, hopefully, just sort of some details. We've got like a square frame in there. We've also got the details about sort of shutter speed, aperture, ISO, etc. Very difficult for me to show you on camera, but this square frame is where you're going to actually frame up the photo you're taking. Now, the way I understand it, I've spoken to the supplier of the camera, and when you half press the shutter, the focus locks on, and then the square frame that I showed you inside the viewfinder actually shifts, and this is to correct for parallax or some sort of parallax distortion. Now, I do understand why it does that. I just hate the fact that it does it, because what happens is the square frame that you can see inside here, so you're framing up within this square frame, and this actually shifts, so you have to recompose your shot. Not ideal. I understand why it does it, but I would have thought that with Fuji's technology on these hybrid viewfinders, they would have found a way around that. But I can live with it, and also you can of course frame up using the rear screen as well. Now it leads me on to just the second negative point, and there are only two, and that is that this screen is 2.8 inches, it's very clear, superb to use, but the resolution is only 460k dot. Now, when you're paying almost £1,000 for a camera, I would have expected a really high resolution screen, possibly sort of a 920k dot screen or higher. And that is it when it comes to the negatives. Let's move on to the positives very quickly, and there are plenty. First of all, the build quality. This thing is built like a tank. It's very well constructed. We've got this sort of metal top plate. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Let me give you sort of a front view of this. Look at that. It really does look superb and feels superb in the hand as well. I should mention that this hood on the front here, and I've got a UV filter on, these are additional purchases. So the UV filter is around about sort of £15, and then this hood combination, you can get an official Fuji one for around about £60. This was a third-party manufactured one, and it was about £17 on Amazon. Well worth picking up. Helps protect that 23mm lens that the X100 has. Now we'll move on to the lens itself. This is 23mm f2 lens, absolutely gorgeous, very smooth focus ring. We've got manual aperture control here as well. You can turn this round and control the aperture manually. You can also control the shutter speed manually on this dial here. And if you leave it in the auto mode, and the auto mode there, you will see a P on the back of the screen, which means it's going to pretty much do everything you want automatically. Now, when you are in sort of manual modes, if I switch this round, you will see that changes to aperture priority. Pop that back round on the front there to automatic and change the shutter dial, and you will see the display changes to S to show you it's in shutter priority. And then we've also got an exposure compensation dial on the top here, and this in combination with all of the other controls are very, very well engineered. Such a firm control, and you can't accidentally knock these. Very, very well made. And then the other positive points, well, we've got different drive modes, and if I just hit this drive button here, you see we've got still image, then we've got 3 frames per second or 6, and then if I go down one more, we've got auto exposure bracketing, we've got ISO bracketing, we've got film simulation bracketing, dynamic range bracketing, multiple exposure, a panorama mode, and of course the movie mode. Now when it comes to the movie mode, I should mention this captures 1080p full HD video in either 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. It does a really good job. You can see that in my HD video test. The microphones on the front, we've got one microphone just here and the other one is just up here. Very well positioned and really good microphones. It actually captures brilliant audio alongside the video. And this is primarily a photography camera for taking still images. The fact that it does that 1080p video and does it very well indeed is extremely useful, and a really shallow depth of field can be achieved because of the superb optics. The f2 aperture 23mm lens really does perform well. So what else can I show you on this? Well, we've also got manual focus, and autofocus continuous and autofocus single modes on the side here. This switch, yeah, it's a little bit plasticky. I don't like the switch that much, but it does its job. I would leave it in either autofocus single or in manual focus. And manual focus modes are really good as well. If I focus in on the subject at the back there, let's just pop it into autofocus single, you'll see it locks on very quickly. And then if I just point this in another direction and then back to that nearer subject, very quick indeed. But if we pop it into manual focus, this is a really neat trick. So now we're in manual focus, so it will give us all our exposure values when we actually push that button, but it will not focus. But you can still achieve focus with the AFL button here on the back. So we've still got access to autofocus, but we've also got manual focus, and we can push this button in here and it gives us a zoomed in view, and then we can use the manual focus ring on the front to actually manual focus on our subject. Now, if we need even more help, we can push again, and then we've got split image. So this allows us to actually use the sort of old split image sort of technique to focus, and you can see on the display here we can achieve really pin sharp focus, and then push again and it gives us focus peak highlighting, which is also useful, and then push again to go back into standard mode. If we want to jump out of the magnified view, we just push the shutter button. So leaving it in manual focus is really useful because we can still do autofocus if we really need to, or we can adjust focus if we need to using the focus ring on the front and the various modes that this command dial actually gives us access to. The menu system, I'll give you a quick look at that. Very well laid out. We've got shooting menus 1 through to 5 on the left hand side here, and then we've got setup menus on the left hand side as well, 1 through to 3, and you can change absolutely everything, as well as accessing all of the different film simulation modes that the X100 offers. Now this does shoot in RAW as well. The X100 will shoot in RAW and JPEG, but, and I will say this is a but, I know some people like to shoot in RAW, but through my tests on this I found that the JPEGs that the X100S produces are absolutely fantastic. Superb colour rendition, superb detail, very, very sharp, pin sharp in fact, and you can't really fault it. I don't think you would ever need to shoot in RAW because you'll spend a lot of time post-processing your images and probably end up with something very similar to what the JPEG would have looked like straight out of the camera. So the X100S, who's it for? Well, maybe if you've got a DSLR already and you want a really high quality fixed focal length lens camera that's got an APS-C size sensor and superb images to run alongside your DSLR, or maybe you're an enthusiast that likes to do a bit of street photography or maybe a bit of landscape photography, pretty much anything this will lend its hand to, then the X100S is a very, very nice camera, superbly built, and the results you will not be disappointed with. So that's it for my review of the Fujifilm X100S. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I will also post some links to a few of the images that I captured with the X100S. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Check out the links underneath this video to Park Cameras who supplied me the X100S, and I will see you all in the next video.